Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here today. Good afternoon, everybody. Ever since I was younger, I remember making this commitment to myself that I wanted to be somebody that was strong enough to deal with the life storms when they got thrown my way. Now, I don't remember exactly why this decision happened, but I just remember kind of looking around and thinking, life isn't easy. It's going to throw curveballs, storms are going to come my way, adversity is going to come, and when that happens, I want to be someone that can pick myself up and keep moving forward. Now, what I didn't realize at the time was that I was formulating a set of values, a philosophy that I live by today, standing here and sharing with you. I didn't realize that this was going to become such an integral part of my life. But of course, it's something that starts from when you're very, very young. So I'm an athlete today. And I work with a whole number of different brands such as Adidas and Oakley. But it started from running around in my pants and my vest doing egg and spoon race on the fields, which was obviously not the highlight. And when I was at school, I was actually told by my teachers that I was terrible at sport and that I'd never be able to do it. They also told me that I was really stupid, that I was lazy, and that I would never amount to anything in my life. And whilst I was at this school, I got bullied by some girls in my class. Again, I'm not really too sure why they did it, but I remember personally struggling with figuring out how to be true to myself whilst also figuring out how to fit in and be accepted by my peers and the social environment that I was in. And I think that's maybe why they picked on me. And one day my mum walked into school and she said to me, "Grab your bags, we're leaving." And she took me out and I never went back. And she took me to a lovely school where I got mentored and they brought out all these things in me. And I went on to achieve all the things that they said that I couldn't do. But that moment, that day, was one of the most important lessons in my entire life because it made me realize that you can leave these difficult situations behind, but you've got to be brave enough to go out there and do it. And I used to love riding my bike as a child, and so many days today, when I'm on my bike and I'm on an adventure, I'm riding around and I feel like that 5-year-old girl who's on the bike with those Jim Joey badges, going and exploring the world, my little picnic, and just kind of super excited about the world. But I had no idea that this passion for cycling was going to lead to cycling London to Paris in 24 hours over 10 times, cycling coast to coast across the USA, and a whole bunch of other crazy cycling challenges. I've just got back from cycling the North Coast 500 miles around the north coast of Scotland, which is, without a shadow of doubt, the most beautiful route in the entire world. If anybody is looking for an amazing road trip, you don't need to cycle it. So this is one of my biggest mantras in life. Confidence is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it gets. Now, throughout my whole life, I've thrown myself into the things that I felt were important to me. So I wanted to get good at cycling. I'm going to cycle lots. I want to be good at maths. I want to learn how to do fractions. I'm going to practice that after school. Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, we always throw ourselves into that. But nobody spoke to me about confidence. Nobody said to me, well, how are you going to be confident? It was something that I struggled with throughout my whole life. I struggled with body confidence. I got bullied at 2 different schools. And I always had this idea that I wanted to do something different with my life. I wanted to do something of value, something of meaning. And I had all these great ambitions and dreams, but I had no idea how to actually manifest them and make them happen. So when I graduated from university, I'm super excited. I feel like my whole life has been leading to this point, and I followed the rules. Okay, when I was born, someone gives you this rule book, tick through the things that you're supposed to do as good a job as you can, and if you do a good job, maybe you'll get a good job, and that will define you and give you the sense of purpose and fulfillment, all these kind of things that I was looking for in my life. And I was super excited to finally have graduated from university, moved down to London, and I started Googling and looking for all number of amazing jobs. And I was like, I would love to do something volunteering. I'd love to do something that was making a difference in the world, was basically my ambition. But I was finding out that that was impossible. I couldn't find any jobs that kind of fulfilled my ambitions. So I took a job doing sales 9 to 5 in a London technology startup. And one of the things that we used to sell was solar panels. So this is us, our eco-experts trade show with my team here. And I took this job on like it was my dream job. And I threw myself into it. And I was like, I wanted to be the best that I could be in that job. But within 6 months, I was absolutely bored. I felt, is this really it? Is this really it? Is this really what life is all about? Just sitting here, doing a job that feels so limiting to me in a world that feels so limiting. Now, I wanted to run a business. I wanted to build a business. I wanted to build amazing cultures. I wanted to change the world. I had all this ambition, and I felt like I'd worked my whole life to be able to use that ambition for something meaningful. And I know that there's absolutely loads of you in the audience today who, the first time that you started your training, the first time you put on that uniform, you must have seen yourself at the top. You must have seen yourself in the incredible positions that you're in today. But the world isn't set up for that. Did anybody's bosses come to you on your first day and say, I really see that potential in you. Let's talk about how we can accelerate you through this, and let's talk about how we can get that potential out and get you to a leadership position or whatever it is? That certainly didn't happen to me. The world was like, hey, sit in your box, do your thing, bide your time, don't give too much, don't ask for too much, don't be too ambitious, don't just sit there and tap it out. And all of my friends were super happy with just doing their jobs that they didn't enjoy and going to the pub afterwards. And I was joining them in the pub. And I was like, okay, great, so I'm feeling upset about this whole situation, so I'll go to the pub and maybe that'll make me feel better. Wrong, no. So I decided to take this situation into my own hands. Here I am with my ex-boss. He's a phenomenal man. The day that I actually left this company, we turned it into the UK's fastest growing technology startup and turned it into one of the best companies in the UK to work for. And we built that from scratch. There were 10 of us, and we built that whole company from scratch. It was a phenomenal experience. And whilst I was there, I decided I needed a challenge. I was like, this isn't the place that I'm going to find out who I am. This isn't the place that I'm going to be able to, to see what my limits are and go out into the world and find all these answers to these burning questions I'd had inside myself since I was a child. So the first challenge I set myself was an adventure race in the jungle of Borneo. It was a week-long adventure race. I was really unfit before I started training for this challenge. I wasn't sporty at school, and I just found it. I remember the day that I found it online, and I thought, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I started training for it. I went up to the jungle in November 2008, and it changed my life. It completely and utterly changed my life, because so many of the things that I've been struggling to understand and to find my way through with confidence, being resilient, courage, all of these things that even as that child that I'd known were important to me, I felt like, that's it. I figured out how to learn how to be that person. And it was by challenging myself. It was by obliterating every limit that me or the world placed around me. And it was just by having a goal and saying, I'm just going to go and do this. I'm just going to go and do this. And then throwing myself into it, having the most amazing adventure in Borneo, seeing things, experiencing things, meeting new people, absolutely incredible. But it was the way that I felt inside. It was the way that I felt about myself. And that I came back to London and I threw that feeling into every aspect of my life. And for the next 8 years or so, I was on this amazing journey where on my weekends and my holidays, I was pursuing one challenge after the next. And I was like, okay, so I want to learn how to climb mountains, because I saw a picture of someone on the summit of Mont Blanc and thought, oh my goodness, imagine what that would feel like to stand up there at 9 o'clock in the morning, having climbed through the night above the cloud lines. Well, I can tell you, it feels pretty freaking amazing. Amazing, extraordinary. And here I am, an ordinary person who a few years earlier had never climbed a mountain, never owned a bike before, cycling London to Paris in 24 hours. But it wasn't just these amazing adventures, it was the way it was changing my mindset, it was the way it was changing how I feel about myself, how I feel about every single aspect of life. It was filtering through all of them. And it was giving me the courage to go and knock on my boss's door and say, hey, give me something else. I was going in there and I was fired up and had all this energy, and I was like, come on, let's do something else. So I love to talk about the pain cave. Has anyone heard of that before? Yeah? So the pain cave is what you go through when you're on a challenge. And for every single person, that pain cave will feel different and it will arrive at different times. Whether you're doing a 5K walk or running 50 kilometers or whatever it is. But for me, there are so many lessons in the pain cave, and I'm super passionate about that. A lot of people say to me, but why? Why did you want to sit through that? Like, what's your motivation to get through these really difficult times when you're on a challenge? And for me, it's always Who am I going to be when I come out the other side? Stopping, quitting, not even doing it in the first place, those are options that are available to every single one of us. But I always want to be the person that keeps going when it gets tough, that comes out the other side and says, yeah, that was really hard, but I learned so much about myself and I fought every single step of the way to be this person who's standing up here today. And then those lessons come with you throughout the rest of your life. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how it feels when you're on a challenge, right? So imagine for one moment that we're all climbing a mountain together, okay? Now what happens is every single ounce of energy that you have, you're going to need to get to the top of the mountain and get back down. 70% of accidents happen on the way back down from mountains because people relax and then they think, oh, it's okay, I'm safe now. No. So we're going to need to have all that energy. Now, every single thought that you have, every conversation you have, every movement that you make, it takes valuable energy from you. So what you learn when you're in the mountains is that, or you're on a challenge, is that you need to conserve that energy as much as you can for yourself and for the pursuit that you're in. And it's been incredibly valuable in helping me learn how to conserve my energy. But the other thing it does is it strips you to the core. So there are a whole different number of amazing people in this room today, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know you a little bit later. But if we're climbing a mountain together, it honestly doesn't matter who you are, what you've done in your life, what your status is, any of these other things that we sort of aspire to achieve in life to kind of give us that sense of purpose and meaning. Because all it matters is who you are when it gets tough, and can you keep on moving forward? And who are you as a leader? Who are you as a team player? You know, how do you stop and help other people? And what's going on in your mind? All those kind of things. And I just think that learning how to deal with adversity is one of the most powerful and valuable things that we can do with our time. So I completely fell in love with climbing mountains, basically. Because for the first time in my life, I was like, whoa, there are no limits. There are actually no limits. You go out there and you see the world and you're like, it's just amazing. And being able to feel that and have that mindset and take that back into your life has utterly changed my life. But it's not just these lessons from the pain cave. It's not just the learning how to be someone that has grit and courage and determination. It's the incredible things that you feel and that you see when you're out there. So after a storm, this picture was taken in Scotland in the Outer Hebrides. There was this huge raging storm. My friend and I were there. The clouds parted and it was a double rainbow, seeing it from end to end. It's just like, the world is incredible. For me, these moments that are completely and utterly free just have to be there in that moment, just have to be outside and go and say yes to them. Life-changing. So back to my days in my corporate 9-to-5 London startup job. Like I said, I'm kind of going on my boss's door, knocking, saying, come on, Titus, like, let's do this, let's do that. I've been doing my job for 3 years now, really want to do something else, what can we do? And the answer really was, stay in your box. and of course, I didn't particularly want to stay in that box. So I decided to cut the rope and cut myself away. And it was one of the most difficult decisions I've ever done. I had share options that I was walking away from. I had 7 or 8 years of experience. I'd worked on and off with the same people in that company for years and years. You know, I had a team of 15 people that I was managing. I was super passionate about building an amazing company culture, and we just turned it into one of the Sunday Times best companies to work for. But the night I quit my job, the night I decided to quit my job, a friend said this to me, Sophie, a ship in the harbour is safe, but that's not what a ship was built for. Go sailing. And I just thought, yeah, that's it. You know, everything that I learned from all my challenges so far, I'd learned that if I want something, I've got to go out and do it. And it came with this responsibility of like, life is out there. Yes, this might feel safe and secure to me, and that's amazing. But I was 27 years old, I didn't have a house, I didn't own a house, I didn't have any kids, and I thought, now's the time. If I don't do it now, I'll never do it. And then a whole load of crazy stuff happened. So at this point, I felt like I'd shredded up the rule book, chucked it aside, and I kind of went a little bit hell for leather. And the first thing I did was to complete my first Ironman. This was, without a shadow of doubt, the hardest challenge. It's a 2.4 mile swim, 118-mile bike ride, followed by running a marathon. And I did it in Wales, in Tenby, where it's very hilly and rainy. I just add a little bit of extra challenge in there. But I remember the first time I had heard about an Ironman, and to me that was like heroic. Someone over there, you know, wow, absolutely incredible. Will never be able to do that in my life. And it just shows me what you can do if you have these big dreams, but you also just take those baby steps every single day and keep working at something and keep growing. Because every single time I did a challenge, it would raise my bar a bit higher. It would enable me to believe in myself a little bit more. I'd bring that back into every single aspect of my life and just dream bigger, believe in myself more. And I think that everybody wants to believe in themselves. Everybody wants to feel courageous and confident and believe in themselves, but we don't wake up in the morning feeling that way. The only way to believe in yourself is to do the things that are difficult and scary. So that's what I did. And the next thing that I did was a challenge called the Alpine Coast to Coast. And I'm going to show you a video from that. The Alpine Coast to Coast is an expedition to cycle the length of the Alps and to climb the highest mountains in each of the Alpine countries. Actually, seeing this whole project come to life has been really incredible, and it just made me realise that you can write anything down on a piece of paper. You can dream up the biggest thing you could possibly think of, and it can happen. Just go and do it. When I decided to do this, I had no idea what it was going to feel like or how far I could cycle each day. For me, it's that unknown, going and exploring your limits that really intrigues me and really entices me to do it. I always knew that this was possible, but I wanted to challenge myself and see if we could go out there day after day after day and perform. You know, finding that motivation is just tough, and that was a big challenge for me. Can I get up when I really, really don't feel like doing it and go and do it again? I think that the whole sort of like one life, live it philosophy that I love, that's what this is all about, is about going out and living life and just seeing the world at such a beautiful pace. One day I will not be able to do this. Today is not that day. One day I will not be able to do this. Today is not that day. Did you hear that? So every year I run a bike event, and I take 150 people from around the world, and we cycle London to Paris in 24 hours. And that's on the back of every single person's jersey. And I think it's so simple, but the first time I heard that, it just grabbed me. Just absolutely grabbed me. And I, you know, when I'm on these challenges, sometimes it's so hard, and the voice of doubt can be so loud that the only way to block it out is just to have a mantra, and those are the kind of things I repeat to myself over and over and over again. Just something as positive and empowering as that. So the next video I'm going to show you is when I was having a very difficult moment on this challenge. So the challenge, called it the Alpine Coast to Coast, it was to climb the highest mountains in the 8 Alpine countries, including Mont Blanc, and cycle between them. So climbing the mountains would take me between 2 and 3 days, going up, staying at an Alpine hut, leaving in the middle of the night up to the summit and then back down. And then the next day I would get on my bike and I'd cycle for 2 or 3 days to the next country and then repeat the process all over again. And no one in the world has done this challenge so far. So it's not a world record. That's a different kind of kettle of fish. But yeah, I think for me it was a really bold, audacious idea, and you know, but it absolutely incredible experience. And every single day that I was on my bike, every single step I was putting forward, I was processing all this stuff. I was like, why am I doing this? What's this motivation? What am I learning? How is this going to change my life? And one of the things that was so interesting about it were the moments that I couldn't do it, that I felt the weight of this whole challenge on top of me. And here's one I'm just going to share with you now.
Really struggling. Really struggling. Keep having to stop to look at the map of directions. It's just taking so long. I know it's all in the head. I know it's all in the head, and I know that I need to be positive. I don't have anything there.
So I'm a big energy person. Energy is absolutely everything for me. And I've been able to do some kind of quite ridiculous things in my life. And realistically, I probably shouldn't have been able to do them. I remember once I went to the physio and he was like, you shouldn't really be able to do these things. And I was like, well, I've kind of done them, so how did that one work? But when my mind and my energy and my motivation are completely there, then that to me, I want to prove to myself that can become the strongest thing in the world, and it is to me at that time. So when I feel like I don't have anything there, I find that very, very difficult, and that's how I felt in this moment. Absolute rock bottom, exhausted, no motivation, nothing to give. I have so many tricks that I use to bring myself out of these moments, and I tried them all, and it was only 9 o'clock in the morning, and I had about another 200 kilometers to cycle. And I was like, what am I going to do now? But the thing is, giving myself those moments to sit there on the side of the road and to cry, put my head in my hands and say, do you know what, right now I'm not okay. That's okay. That is such a powerful feeling, to completely and utterly surrender to the powerlessness of these huge feelings that I'm feeling, and just to let myself feel that. And I do that throughout the rest of my life, and from some of the other stuff I'm going to talk to you about a bit later, I encourage that with other people that I work with and I'm mentoring. Just, for me, that doesn't mean weakness. For me, that means strength. It shows strength to be able to sit there and say, I'm finding this really freaking hard right now, and I don't know if I can do this. But then, that's a curveball. That's a curveball that got sent my way, and then I've got to pick myself up and keep moving forward. And that's what I did. And when you do these kind of challenges, the sort of feelings and the range of feelings that you might feel in, say, a month or 6 months of your life, you feel them all. The entire spectrum, the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, the doubts, and it's just the most valuable, phenomenal experience, because you come in full fury and glory with everything, with all the highs and the lows, with the pain and the highs and just everything. And I think that so often in life, people are scared to face the things that are difficult. They're scared to face the pain, and there's a resistance against anything where there's pain or there's fear. But doing all these challenges has taught me, you know what, I'm strong enough to be able to go in there and face that, and because I know that that's where I'm going to be able to grow. So what I love to talk about is this idea of developing a toolbox for life. Now, you've had way more training than I've ever had in my entire life, no doubt, and an incredible depth of experience behind you. And you would never go into your job without that kind of training. And so I don't know why we don't have more training in life about the person that we want to be and how we're going to go and be that person. So for me, the toolbox is this idea that when adversity comes, whatever happens in life, whether it's standing up here on the stage in front of you and saying, yes, this amazing opportunity that Paul asked me to do, whether it's starting my youth empowerment project, whether it's asking for a promotion, whether it's breaking up from a relationship you're unhappy in, or whatever it is, we all need to be brave in life to be able to go and hunt down those experiences. And I can't go and climb mountains every day to sharpen those tools in my toolbox. So I like to kind of practice them on a day-to-day basis, which is why I say yes to things that scare me, which is why I always put myself out there, why I go to the gym all the time to practice being that person that's committed, that's focused, that's dedicated to my goals. So I think this toolbox for life is super interesting, and it's helped me so that whenever anything is difficult or it's challenging or it's scary, I know that I can back myself. And especially when really difficult things happen, I can have this chat with myself and I can say, okay, right, this is happening right now, but if she can do that, if she can go and climb all those mountains, cycle through those countries, you can do this. And I think that, of course, sometimes we are lucky enough to have other people to back ourselves in life, but often we're not, and it's super important for us to learn how to back ourselves. So the other thing that's been so kind of valuable for me is this notion of being stronger than the storm. And I can talk you through a couple of the storms. So this photo was taken in my second Ironman. I don't know if you can just see that one tear on my face. I'm in the marathon, basically feeling like completely and utterly rock bottom again. But the only thing that I've got is that sense of self-belief, like I can do this, and I hold on to that incredibly strongly. And a little while ago, this guy wrote to me, and he'd written to me, and then he wrote me a follow-up email, and he said to me, Sophie, I'm 54 years old, and I've just completed my first Ironman. He said, when I contacted you and asked you for some advice for how to cope mentally during the race, you helped me out, thank you for that. He said, I finished the race, and I crossed the finish line. I can do anything now. And I thought, that's incredibly powerful. And that's the point, isn't it? It's taking action, and it's not I can do anything. Like little kids, we put them in superhero uniforms and they run around and say, yeah, I can do anything. That's amazing. But sadly, that gets lost along the way. And as we grow up, we have all these doubts and these fears and these limiting beliefs. But the I can do anything now part, I just love that. I love it so much. But I don't want people to wait until they're 54 to experience that feeling. Why not start when you're 5 years old? So a couple of years ago, I applied for a TV program called The World's Toughest Army, and I got rejected from the BBC because I was a woman. Now, I didn't think that I was one of the toughest people in the country, of course not, but I just had this, I was on this journey, and I thought, this sounds great, I'll apply for it, it'll be really fun. And it turned into a bit of a storm. And what happened was I wrote about it on my blog because I'm a big advocate for change, and I believe in equality, and I thought, you know what? We have so many great examples of men being tough. What we need are examples of women showing how amazing and strong and they are as well. So I wrote about it on my blog, and it went a little bit viral. And about a month later, I got a call from the BBC saying they'd changed their minds, and they're now accepting women on their show, and would I like to apply? And what happened next was quite interesting. Lots of women applied, and a woman won the entire show. I don't know if you remember, it's called the Ultimate Hell Week. And Claire won, Claire Miller, she's a doctor. And it just goes to show, what you can do. And part of, for me, of being stronger than the storm is using my voice for things that I'm passionate about, for standing up for people who perhaps don't have the courage to stand up for themselves. My mission is to champion ordinary people to achieve their extraordinary. And the London to Paris bike ride that I mentioned before is a phenomenal example of this, of ordinary people coming with all these fears and these doubts. And one guy has just gone on from doing that. He's cycled around the world, and people have raised so much money for charity for all different causes. But mostly, it's people arrive there and they're so worried, I'm not going to be able to do this, all these fears and these doubts that we're talking about. And then they go and they start cycling and they just disappear. And by the time you get to Paris, honestly, if you cycle London to Paris in 24 hours, you will literally feel like a hero. And you walk into work the next day, and everyone's like, so how was your weekend? Chat around the water cooler. Yeah, cycle London to Paris in 24 hours. It's amazing. And the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about today is about the power of giving back. So about 2 years ago, I set up a youth empowerment project called Trailblazers. It's called Trailblazers because my mum raised me to blaze my own trail in life, and I wanted to pass it on to other people. These pictures were taken at an adventure camp that I organised for 50 underprivileged, very vulnerable teenage girls last October. And here's a little video. I deliver talks and workshops in schools, and here's a little video to show you kind of what goes on in those workshops. Success for me is being true to yourself, belief in your ability to problem solve, and belief in your own self-worth. Everybody just imagines that we're supposed to just go through life and be confident people, but it's not like that. We need to practice that, and that's what we're trying to do with Trailblazers. This is all about giving you a voice so that we can celebrate who you are and develop the skills, confidence, and a community so that you've got your own back, and then we've got each other's back.
If you have a voice, speak, because if you do, it will leave them something to think about.
I'm confident, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I'm proud of who I am.
I really noticed a difference in them. They actually wanted to talk to you.
To see the progress since the first time I saw them is really phenomenal. I feel like this is the start of something really special, and I'm so excited to see what happens next. Coming to the end of my presentation now, I just wanted to leave you with this, telling you a little bit about what happens in Trailblazers. And the mentoring isn't a one-way street. It's not something that is appreciated and adds value to the person that you're mentoring. It's a butterfly effect. It helps everybody. I think everybody has this underlying idea and passion of, I want to give back. I want to use what I've learned and what I've been through to help other people. One of the strongest storms that's kind of happened to me, or sort of difficult situations that I've been through in my life, have really been matters of the heart. Things that have personally been upsetting and traumatic to me to deal with. And, when I'm going through them, they're horrific, of course they are. But when I go and I work with these girls, they're so worried, they're so kind of tapped out, they're sort of described as invisible by their teachers and their parents, and they're under so much criticism and judgment that their mantra in life is just exist without kind of getting any more notice than I already have. And I go in there and I can use everything that I've learned and just get down into the trenches with them. Really just get down there, human to human, compassionate, care, just showing that I care. And it's phenomenal. After my first 2-hour workshops, the teachers are coming up to me and they're saying, I've never seen her do that before. I've never seen her laugh. I've never seen her put her hands up. I've never seen her talk to anyone. I've never seen her do that. And I think it's just a simple thing. Everybody needs someone to believe in them. And these girls, they need that. They really need that, because the rest of their life is just trying to squish them down. And what I do is try and figure out who are you in your head and your heart, and bring that person to the surface so that they can rise and shine. But I think it's so powerful, that idea of actually everything that we go through in our lives, all of our personal experiences, you use those to actually really relate to somebody. I learned how to be a good boss by having terrible bosses. I learned how to mentor people who don't have the same amount of confidence and courage as me by being picked on and bullied by other girls when I was younger. And I think one thing I'd love to just leave you with is this idea of what's in every single one of your hands, this energy, this compassion that you have, this experience, this ability to give back and make a difference, such a huge difference in other people's lives. One of my friends called me recently, and she'd been going through a really, really, really difficult time. And she sort of said to me, that night that you called me, I didn't know how bad it was, but that she was going to end her life. And I just sort of called her and just said, how are you, all this kind of stuff. And it's so important to reach out to people, because you just never know, the simplest thing can make the biggest difference. And that's what I found with the girls. It's been the most amazing journey with them. Some of them were suicidal when I first met them. And then when I've gone back a year later, they're changed girls. They're putting their hands up, they're going and doing all this kind of great stuff at work, and then it's filtering through and it's affecting their families. And, it's really amazing to be part of that. And I love this idea of why fit in when you were born to stand out. And that takes me back to where I started this presentation, is this sort of 5-year-old girl who was really struggling to fit in, but wanted to be myself and to find a place in this ever-changing, highly pressured world. And hopefully today I've been able to share some insights in how I've managed to do that. And I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much. One life, live it.
Sophie Radcliffe, you were brilliant. Well done. Any questions for Sophie? We have got a few minutes. I've got plenty of questions if anybody's feeling shy. Does anyone want to kick us off? We've got a question at the back. We'll get a microphone there. Anyone after that? We've got a couple of mics.
Hi, Sophie. My name's Matt, and I ask this not as a superintendent, but as a dad of 4 young girls who have to make their way in the world. How can I be a better dad?
$60 million question.
There, sorry. Sorry. My dad left when I was 3, and I wish he had asked me that question at one point in my life. Sorry. I think by being a better dad, I think the thing is that young girls and young people in general, they're so bored of everyone trying to tell them what they should and should not do, and and trying to understand how it is, and they get that from all levels of their school and all this kind of stuff. And the thing is that a lot of them are just struggling so much because they just don't know how to make it work and how to be everything that they're supposed to be. And I would say that just, the most important thing, like the confidence training that I do with these young girls is giving them the skills to know their own sense of self-worth. And a lot of them don't have a positive family support system in place, but I do, and I'm very fortunate to have that. And that's one of the reasons I go and work with these girls. But for them to know that no matter what's going on outside of their family home, they can come back and they can be with you, and that's always going to feel safe and secure and loved for exactly who they are. I think that's the most important thing. Like, forget about, the results or the sports or any other achievements. If they don't feel good in themselves and they don't feel like they've got that sense of self-worth and exactly who they are, then that kind of stuff's irrelevant anyway. And so I'd say, just always bringing them back to that and creating that place so they know they can talk to you and just go and do fun stuff with them. I'm sure they'll love that.
And Sophie, can I ask you, you've talked about being a blogger and social media is obviously so important, and I'm also a mum to a teenage girl and teenage boy. And I think for all of us, whether you're in the police and you see that side of life on social media, the dark side of life on social media, or you're a mum and you just worry, or dad, and you just worry about the impact, your workings with teenagers, what advice would you give both to the police force and to parents about how to harness social media for good and how to be wary of the bad side?
Yeah, social media, I think, gets a really bad rap. It's very easy to blame it because it's so obvious and it's out there, and it's encompassing all of our lives, and it's very difficult to manage it because it's so new. But I think that often the issues go way deeper, and it's sort of like, why are we all on social media? What is it that we're missing in our lives? How can we get that connection and that sort of meaning and whatever it is that we're looking for, that inspiration in our daily lives, rather than having to look for it online? But when it comes to managing it, taking time away from it is probably the best thing that you can do, actually completely switching off. I've heard families sort of take their kids and they go, right, no phones this whole weekend. I don't know if that's possible with your kids, but just any time away from it. And then the thing that I try and do is just try and be open and honest and share things hopefully in a relatable way so that it takes the pressure off me. There's not this sort of glossy image that I have to share or anything like that. It's just sort of, this is it, and if I want to do it, I want to do it, and if I don't, I don't, and just trying to manage it that way.
And you mentioned role models and role models with for kids in school, and we've talked about role models quite a lot over the last couple of days, whether it's underrepresented groups trying to be senior police officers, having role models, or whatever it might be. And you've mentioned your dad obviously being absent, and I think we talk a lot when we're talking about crime prevention, how masculine role models or parental father figures are such an important area in that. And I just wonder what thoughts have you, as you've been with your own struggles and achieving the amazing things you've done in your confidence, and when you've been working with these kids, whether you've got insights into what sort of role models really work and how that can be maybe used across all aspects of life.
Absolutely. I would say it all comes down to someone that's been there and is going through whatever it is that you've gone through, and that can really relate to it and sit there. And, I think that so often we feel like we have to problem solve and fix things and offer advice, but actually often people just want someone just to sit there and be there and listen, and that's how you can make such a huge amount of progress, especially with vulnerable people in vulnerable situations.
And I don't know whether this is relevant, particularly because I don't want to be sexist about it, but the kids you've been working with are girl kids, and I don't know whether they've been, been in trouble with the police or been in gangs or anything like that. But I just wonder whether there's any insights you've got over the time you've been working with these kids that you might want to share with this audience as to how to break through to those difficult to reach kids, particularly if they might end up getting in trouble with the law one day. Anything you've learnt on that side of things?
Yeah, great question. So in a couple of weeks' time, I'm taking 20 teenagers sailing around the Jurassic Coast. And one of the schools I work with the girls has an awful toxic masculinity environment. And they've asked me to come back and start working with the boys. So it's a big challenge for me as well, taking 20 girls and boys, but mostly boys. And I think they're really at risk of exactly what you're saying. Something that's going on in every single school that I've been to is this rife. They just put it out there, they tell each other the whole time that you should just go kill yourself. And it's like the biggest throwaway comment that happens in schools, and it's so scary. And I sort of say to them, do you know how bad teenage suicide rates are? Like, you know that I try to get them to actually understand that these are not just words, they have an impact. Every word equals a reaction. You know, and be really, really careful of like your energy and who you are and what you're doing and that voice that you have, and lend it towards really positive things. And I think that's the thing, you know, it's basically somehow breaking through and giving them something that's more important than the behaviours that they're doing. Most teenagers are just wrapped up in trying to get some sort of social what's that word I'm looking for?
Validation.
Validation, thank you. Validation or acceptance from other people. And if we can break away and say, hold on a sec, at some point that's not gonna be your bargaining chip in life anymore. You know, no one's gonna care if you're great at football, frankly, because you're gonna have to get a job and you might get a girlfriend that's not interested in football. So that's not the be all and end all, or you behaving badly and doing all this stuff just to impress your mates. Like, there's a time limit on which that is not cool and it's not fun and it's not fair. And I think the earlier that we can get the kids to start realising that and start thinking, like I said in the beginning, who am I? Who do I want to be? What are my values? What do I want to represent in this world? And start taking action towards being that person, then the better. But I think that absolutely has to come with role models and with creating opportunities that are more important to them than whatever it is, the trouble that they're getting into.
Very good point. Any final question for Sophie before we let her go back to the good work she's doing?
One more question?
They're all feeling a bit scared by your achievements, I
think.
No. They're all thinking, she's done all these Ironman competitions.
No.
So,
Hi. I mean, obviously what you've got, we need to kind of bottle, because you're bouncing around the stage, so much energy. But for those children who aren't fortunate enough to obviously get to sort of meet you in person, is there any sort of reference material or kind of easy go-to places that we can signpost to? You know, I'm thinking selfishly for my children, but, you know, wider afield, because we can't get you everywhere, unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks. Yes, so on social media, I'm Challenge Sophie, and my Trailblazers, we are the Trailblazers. So I want to expand it, and I want to do so much more, and there's so much potential there, but it's just me at the moment. And so I sort of have to, you know, like you said, I've got a lot of energy and I love having that, but I got really burnt out at the end of last year as a result of all the work I was doing with Trailblazers. So yeah, it's a work in progress. I'm trying to, you know, do the best I can and spread it as much as possible, but those are the places for now. And if there's anyone in the room that feels that they could help and support or has any questions, like, I'll be here until tomorrow morning, until I take the train back to London. So just want to say thank you again so much for your time and attention this afternoon, and I look forward to this evening.
Sophie Radcliffe.
Thank you.